Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Season 4 here. Today we are back for Tetra Drive Dragon.
Yay!
So, this is obviously quite an iconic unit for many Aquaforce players, just people who are in what's it called, the Link Joker era. So we are covering him today. Yes, there have been a lot of controversies regarding this card because the promotional slides and his actual skill, nothing alike. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people generally hate this card, but the people who have actually looked beyond that very weird first skill have actually really liked this deck. And actually the first skill is actually not that bad either, so that's why we still like the deck. Obviously I cannot afford Tetra Drive because of the hype, so today we have the fourth.
Hello.
So I know there's a lot of decks you didn't collapse for, but in the future, I am going back to doing more of my own decks. But to be fair, I did all of my own decks in the beginning, and to the end of this V season, there will be more of mine, but we just wanted to do more of the hype ones. Since we just covered Raging, we might as well just cover this too. So let's get started with the Great Trees. We play 4 Tetra Drive Dragon and 2 George. So let's just break it down real quick. Tetra Drive has 2 very phenomenal skills. His first skill is Counterblast 1, and this unit receives 2000 power. It's a VOR skill, so
wow.
Yeah. Yes, this skill has been called the skill that cuts through the future, and I like to ask myself why Bushiroad had the audacity to print this skill, but I realize why. If you counterblast just one card, it gets 2000 power, which brings you at a 14k base. It concedes magic numbers. That is the secret to Tetra Drive Dragon. But I mean, the real gems is really the second skill. The second skill is quite simple.
His second skill is it brings back to the heart of Tetra Drive from both the Limit Break era as well as the G era in some sense, because it relies on the wave mechanic that Aquaforce had during the G era. So at the end of the 4th battle that your rear guard attacked, you may discard 2 cards from your hand and you may stand this unit and it gains drive -1 until end of turn. And then after that, after the 7th battle that your rear guard attack, you may discard 1. That you may counterblast 1 and discard 1. You can stand this unit again, and he does not lose any drive. It does not lose any drive checks for that last restand. So basically, this is wave 4 and wave 7 restand. So as Aquaforce has always been, you'll definitely be able to reach many multi attacks, and then you're able to restand your Vanguard for lots and lots of attacks.
Now, the thing that Tetra Drive, the questions that a lot of people generally ask when they play this deck, it's 2 big questions. One, how much counterblast does this deck actually use that they printed such an amazing first skill? And secondly, how often should I actually go for the 4th and 7th threshold? The 4th threshold is really the easy one because, you spawn XL, Aquaforce has so many multi-attackers, it's really a given to get that first threshold. The real question is, should I really go for that 7th attack? The 7th attack really involves a lot of commitment to not just the board, but to ensure that you have a decent enough setup to get running, which is quite hard for Aquaforce actually, especially on turn 3. On turn 4, it's generally a lot easier, especially if you have another XL, it really lightens the load. But assuming you don't, you are forced to really crank over your neck and try your best to actually squeeze a 7th rearguard attack. If you get it done, alright, if you assess the situation and you feel that it's worth it and you do it, it really pops off, it really rewards you really well. Yes, this deck is punished by damage triggers, but that's why the rest of the deck, we kind of mitigate that problem as much as we can. But if you make a false assessment, if you overextend and you end up not being able to either deal enough damage to help you out throughout the game, or you just unable to win in general, you can be very easily punished while playing Tetra Drive. And I don't really know, I don't think that's always been a flavor of Tetra Drive, but I do think that this approach to Tetra Drive is very interesting in my opinion. So it remains to be seen whether people can really master this deck. I mean, it has potential if you ask me. I definitely had a lot of fun playing this deck, but it remains to be seen how meta reliable this deck can actually be. Then of course our other grade 2 is George.
So for George, his skill is actually quite simple. He has a Vanguard skill but most of the time you're not gonna be riding him. But then we'll just say in the event that you have to actually ride him, if you disgrade, you may counterblast once per turn, you may counterblast one, soul blast one, and then you minus your opponent's vanguard for 5k. So if it's a force clan, it goes down to 8k, and if it's an Excel clan or protect clan, it goes down to 7k. So it's the same thing as all the other vanguards that minus power, like Valios, Revon. All of them just make Aqua Force a lot more immune to damage triggers and just make your multi attacks hit that much harder and more devastating. But you're not gonna use him for the vanguard skill unless you absolutely have to. His rearguard skill is honestly the one that saves him the most, which is that you can, when he attacks once per turn, you stand one of your back row rearguards. So you might be saying, stand one of your back row rearguards, but that unit can't attack, or all you can do is just boost again. Well, for Aqua Force, and every stood rearguard can actually be used for a multi attack. It just depends on how well you have set up your board. And sometimes George can truly make Tetra Drive go from not only just 8 attacks but all the way up to 9 attacks, and it can also make that reaching that 7 attack threshold that much easier.
So that's really why you play it. I know there are other grade 3 options out there for Tetra Drive that people say, let's slot this with Revon, let's slot this with Valios, the Blue Wave. And then there's also people who say, play the other grade 3 that's reprinted with it. Generally, those are also great options for a deck. There's even people who openly say, let's play Book, because, since Tetra Drive doesn't use CB, let's just blast it all the way to open a Book, draw 3, and pump power. But to be extremely fair in retrospect, these options do not actually solve the problem of the multi-attack clause, and it also doesn't really contribute to Tetra's game plan, because the other two first suggestions are all alternate bosses, so you're kind of choosing instead of actually contributing to the main guy, which is not what we're here for. As with all our other VCall decks, we're mainly focusing on a pure build of the boss, so we do want to bring out the best in Tetra Drive, and honestly it is quite worth it to bring out the best in Tetra Drive, unlike some other decks we've covered here. So yeah, you do actually want to see that potential, and I think George is one of the better candidates to actually help you do so.
Okay, so before we move on to the grade 2s, I think we do have to address the first skill slightly bit more. So the first skill, there actually are some very important interactions that you have to deal with. The first one is definitely the force matchup. So if you're going against a 13k base, if you're 12k, you're not hitting it. No matter how many times you restand, if you don't get a single trigger, you are not hitting their vanguard.
So just pay the cost once.
Just one CB is enough to turn your opponent from trigger to pass. So you can, I'll just no guard to now I potentially have to guard every single attack if I don't want to take damage. And then against a Excel and Protect, if you go first, if you CB1, you become a 14k base, and 14 minus 9 is 5. So that means it is a magic number against their grade 2 vanguard.
Which is generally a great thing to do.
Yeah, which is generally a very, very good thing. It's very devastating that a restanding vanguard can hit for magic numbers all the time, and not every restanding vanguard can do that. So, unlike some other clans like Narukami, which have their vanguard frozen at 12k unless they gain extra power, Tetra Drive does have a way out of that force matchup. So the CB1 to gain 2k can definitely buy you out of a situation there.
Yeah, I can't believe we've actually spent half or actually 3/4 of this video talking about that 2k. So let's move on to something that doesn't involve counterblasting once you get 2k. Let's talk about the grade 2s. We play 4 of the New Girl,
Blue Wave, Marine General Kuteria.
We play 4 Coral Salt.
Ah, yes.
You must play Coral Salt if you're playing Aqua Force. And we play 4 copies of Terrific
Coil.
Coil. So, I know there's a bit of a glare. I'm going to tilt the cards real quick. Let's talk about Coral Assault first. Coral Assault is a very easy card to play. As long as you have 4 or more of your rear guards at rest, he gets 15,000 power. Yeah, it sounds a bit like Mega Colony, but now it's for you. Yay! 15k for free. There is no better way out of saying this is a great magic beater. And at the end of the turn, at the end of the battle, he attacks. If it's a 4 or more battle, you can slide him in the soul and draw. So he refunds you, and he's a perfect beater. 15k is exactly the number you need to address with a trigger. So he's really just here for the basic. He's in no way is a multi-attack enabler, but he just really helps you to beat for some of your attacks to really become quite good. So yeah, definitely play him. And he has been reprinted, so please don't tell me, oh, it's $40. No, it's not. It's really cheap now. Then, of course, we have Terrific Coil. Terrific Coil is one of the newer cards that has been reprinted, and I'm glad he has been reprinted because he's a better Tidal Assault. What does he do? Basically, on
when
the
he's
Red Circle...
I'll do this one.
Right.
When he is stood by cast ability, he gains 5k.
Once per turn.
Once per yeah. That one is the once per turn skill. And then his first skill is that when he attacks, if it's the first battle of that turn, so it's a wave 1, you can Soul Blast 1 and stand him. And he does not lose any power. So it's not like Tidal Assault where
He minuses 5.
he minuses 5 if you go if it's not the first or second battle. Yeah, so it's just a really, really reliable and very, very strong standing unit. So if he's on the XL circle, then he is a 14k attacker, and then you Soul Blast 1 and he stands again, he's now 19k. So he also hits for magic. He can also hit for even higher guard value after that, which makes him all the stronger for Tetra Drive, which he wants to attack a lot of times to get that wave 4 and wave 7 off.
Really, this card is great because it counts for 2 waves at once, just by existing. You can't have too many of him coexisting because they all compete for the first or second wave battle. So generally speaking, you can do like one Terrific Coil and stand it, another separate Terrific Coil and stand it, then you have another 2 more attacks to deal with, and you went up to wave 4 with Tetra Drive, wave 5. So generally speaking, it's a great card to play, but you don't want too many of it like I just mentioned. But it's still a wonderful card to play. I'm very glad it's been reprinted because it was one of the really breakout cards in VBT 11 that every Aquaforce player wanted to play because Tidal Assault had once served their role. So yeah, I'm glad it has been reprinted so it's more affordable. Do pick it up for your Tetra Drive decks.
If you wish to play this card with Tidal Assault, it's up to you. I mean, they actually you can actually play the two of them together because Tidal Assault clause says it's either the first or second battle.
Which is just another copy of Terrific Coil.
Yeah. So but then that one can extend to wave 4 just on 2 units. So, it could save you on board space, but it's generally up to you whether you want to do it because both of them do require soul.
And you can still, just have 2 copies of Terrific Coil on board and you serve the same effect. So
yes.
Yeah. But yeah, Terrific Coil is definitely the one you do play. Tidal Assault is more subjective.
Yes.
Then of course we have Disco.
Yes, Blue Wave Marine General Cruteria. So Cruteria's skill is that on Vanguard or Rearguard Circle, when she attacks, if it's the third battle of that turn, so wave 3, you can Soul Blast 1. You choose one of your units and give it 5k power. So it doesn't have to be her, it can be any of your units on board, you can just give it 5k. So for Aquaforce, you need that power gain is really, really, really good to hit over defensives to ensure that you don't get bricked out of, you're just swinging for blanks. So generally it is very good. And then if this unit is restood somehow and then he gets to attack again, if I am not wrong, because it says 3 or more.
Yes, 3 or more.
Yeah, so you can use the skill again if she is able to attack after the third battle. So then she can give another unit 5k again if you have the excess soul. And if this unit is on Vanguard Circle, you get to draw a card using this skill. So in the early game.
But then again, if it's on the Vanguard Circle, right, that means it's turn 2. That generally means that this is your last attack.
Yeah. So
unless you have an XL Circle on turn 2, which is physically impossible. So.
Yeah, but I mean, it is so if you do wish to aggro early and your opponent lucks out and doesn't get any damage trigger, the extra draw can really help you out in early game scenario when you have called out many units to aggro and fulfill her condition.
But if not, she's just an extra beater. If it's not a Vanguard target we get to draw, it's just another magic beater. And it's a blue wave, so
the blue wave name is also very important as you will get into our grade 1s.
Yes. For our grade 1s, we play 2 copies of Kelpie Rider.
Nikki, I think this is Nikki.
3 Propulsion, 3 of Tetra Drive's iconic friend,
Wheel Assault,
4 copies of Corvette, and of course 3 copies of Baragios. The once very expensive searcher, reprinted 3 times. It is now more affordable than a cup of water. So let's actually break it down real quick. Baragios, typical grade 3 searcher. His condition for 5k power is if 4 more of your units are at rest. Yeah.
So it's the same as Coral Assault.
Same as Coral, but it has a grade 3 search clause, which is great because as you've seen, we really want our Tetra Drives. So yeah.
Yes. Then now we have a Blue Wave Soldier Corvette. So Blue Wave Soldier Corvette skill is very, very simple. His first skill is a continuous skill during your turn. If your Vanguard is a Blue Wave, or if he's on rearguard circle, he gains 5k. So he's a 13k booster or a 13k attacker. With the amount of column swapping that Arca Force does, having a grade 1 that can just hit for 13k and not have to be like just hitting for blanks is really, really good. And generally it's gonna make life a lot easier knowing that you have a unit that you can call early as turn 1 and beat with it, and you can beat with it for almost the entire game. You don't have to worry about him suddenly losing value as the game goes on. But his second skill is honestly the most important, is Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle, that its attack or the attack that it boosted hits, so it doesn't matter who it hits as long as it hits. You may look at the top 3 cards of your deck and search your deck for any you choose a blue wave from among them and add it into your hand, and you put the other 2 at the bottom of the deck in any order.
It's a free +1 as long as you hit. Blue wave cards are very valuable because, as you've seen, most of our key pieces are named blue wave, with the exception of the generic standards. You have, first of all, itself, propulsion, you have Tetra, you have the Cuteria. They are all blue wave cards and stuff that you generally want to see more of. So getting free copies of cards is never a bad thing. It's a lot like Renette from our Revenger video, where every time it participates in a battle and the attack hits, you generally just get a free Revenger, which we don't have a lot of Revengers, but we have enough to warrant, a free plus. That's always a good thing. So I kind of like that a lot, that we actually get more styles of these cards. And who knows, maybe even my Eradicators may get one. We don't know.
You never know.
We never know. Alright, let's move on to the next card. We will talk about Wheel Assault next.
Yes, Wheel Assault, I think most people will remember what his skill does from the OG era. His skill honestly hasn't changed that much, except he has one more skill, as when he's rolled upon, he may counterblast 1 and draw a card. So it's a Circle Maker's effect from OTT. If you remember, BTO1 OTT had that extra draw effect when you ride. But honestly, he's more important for his main rearguard skill, which is at the end of the battle he boosted. You may choose 2 rearguards and swap their positions. So they can be anywhere on the board. They don't have to even be in the same column. They can literally be from one end of the country and the other, and you just swap them around.
This combos really well with a card we've mentioned just now, which is George. Because as we mentioned, George gets to restand one of your back row rearguards, and if you restand a Wheel Assault, you generally just get to do it again. So it's just that comfortable playing into that option. As you've seen, most of our grade 2s, which was Criteria as well as Tidal Assault, they were all, not Tidal Assault, sorry, Coral Assault, they were all beat sticks. So the real restanding functions of this deck comes from the grade 1 pool, surprisingly and unsurprisingly at the same time. Yes. But if we want to talk about grade 1 restanders, let's talk about the new kit, Propulsion.
Blue Wave Dragon Propulsion Dragon. So Blue Wave Dragon Propulsion Dragon is a very simple skill. Is at the end of the battle that he attacks a grade 2 or greater Vanguard, you may counterblast 1, and you may move him, and you may choose a back row unit and swap positions with it, and then if you swap positions, you may stand this unit.
So you generally can just do a swing with this guy, counterblast 1, and swap him out with another unit and put him to stand, which means he can now boost another attack, which is not bad. It's like a little submarine that goes, swims a bit, bombs something, swims back, and is still up and available. Very accurate to its promotion material from the slides. This guy also combos really well with George, as we've mentioned, because you can swap with him, then put him backwards. He's now booster. You can use George. He's standing back again.
He stands himself.
Stands himself.
So it means George can like swap
target him again.
So like George, what George can do sometimes is that, let's say like he's boosting a unit. So let's say he has already attacked already. Then he swaps. Then he stands again. Then he boosts. Then let's say you have another unit. Then you have a wheel assault. Then you have a wheel assault. So then now propulsion is now rested. So now George attacks, then he will stand propulsion again, and then you can use, and then after that, then you can use wheel assault, and then you can swap the positions of propulsion dragon,
and then you can
swing again, and then even though it's once per turn, it's still one more attack on board. So if you have another copy of propulsion dragon on board, you can then do the skill again.
Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, you don't see Tetra because this was just a really mock setup we wanted to show you. Honestly, Tetra Drive is one of those decks where you can have a whole combo video for itself.
Yes.
So that wraps up our grade 1 segment.
We forgot about Nikki.
talks. Oh yeah, we forgot about Nikki.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
so,
let's do Nikki. Let's do Nikki.
The Tava, the Tava support from VBT11 has also reared his head, mainly due to his rescue, which that he's able to put a unit from the drop zone into the bottom of your deck, and then you get to soul charge from it. Because we actually do use up a lot of soul in this deck, not only for Kuteria but also for Terrific Koi, which we want to use every single turn. And we don't have the only way that we're getting soul otherwise is through soul is by rewriting and Coral Assault and rewriting our Vanguard. So there honestly isn't that much way that we can get back our soul as well. But another
he also cycles a card.
Yeah,
back to
yeah.
the deck,
So that card could be a blue wave card, which we can then search out again with Corvette if we do shuffle the deck through Baragio. So it's always good to fill the deck with more targets for your Corvette. It's almost never bad. But his first, we obviously can't use his first skill because we don't have Tavas in his deck.
Generally speaking, this is our text box. So
Yes.
we took the liberty of putting this card in just as a really quick utility card. But if you really want to play more Restanders, which is a good idea, then you can take this card out and play more Restanders. But to us, we wanted the soul faster, and just getting cards back in the deck generally is always a good thing. Even though deck thinks deck winning, but if your deck is full of shit, it also doesn't matter. So let's put the good stuff back. Let's return them to deck. But really, he's here for the soul charge.
Yes, but I mean, if you want to swap him out with Tidal Assault, it's completely up to you.
It's completely fine, whatever you wish to wear. Our triggers, we play for heals, the normal heals, because we don't really need that much early game defense in our opinion. We kind of want the early game damage actually.
Yes.
We play 6 fronts, 6 draw. 2 of them are obviously normal draws.
Emerald
and the rest
Shield,
are Emerald Shield, Pascal, and the blue wave starter is Kosti. Very simple. The fronts are ready to mitigate our damage triggers, as I mentioned, because the number of attacks you can pull off. If you get a front, you negate 1 damage trigger they pull. It's just amazing. And Tetra Drive attacks a lot of times, so every time he attacks, you just have another chance to really help your board hop over those defensives and just slap them to death. It's just great. 6 draws because this deck is piece reliant. That is the reality of this deck. It's quite clear. 4 heals, like I said, we're not playing the heal guardians in this case because we don't really need that much in terms of early game defense. We rather get once we reach the turn 3 and then we start defending from there and holding down the fort in our many waves of aggression. Really, in the early game, you don't really need that much defense, at least from what we see. So
Yes.
yeah, we don't play Heal Guardians in this deck, but I think Tetra is one of the safer options where if you want to play the Heal Guardians, it's fine.
It's a very flexible spot for
Yeah,
you
it's
guys.
a
In
flexible
our opinion, I think the late game defense is where this deck suffers more, so the 20k shield is a lot better than the 15k for the extra effect in the early game. I mean, unless you're fighting like DOTX, Gabriel, Valkyrie on a daily basis, then your heal trigger dilemma is up to your personal situation.
Yep. Generally, Heal Guardians are always just based on meta.
Yes.
So that actually wraps it up for our Tetra Drive Dragon. It's a boss that so many people have been asking for the return of, and only at V's conclusion of being our main format, it comes back, and the format is a lot safer now. So I mean, it's cool that we get more novel ideas like this.
Yes.
I certainly think he has a spot in this game still. He's not, irrelevant like, some other decks in VCall. But he's also definitely not your meta. He's definitely not going back to his BT13 supremacy. Neither is he going back to his early G supremacy. We're definitely not going back to those times. But definitely he has a spot. Definitely playable and definitely a lot of fun options to try. This deck that we've shown you, in it and of itself, is up for debate completely because
There are
so many variants of
Yeah,
Tetra Drive. It's not even funny.
Yes.
Like, yeah, we could do one Tetra Drive video like every week, and that would cover me with at least 2 months of content.
Yes.
So that actually covers it for this build of Tetra Drive. Let us know in the comment section below your build of Tetra Drive because, like I said, there's just so many of it.
Yeah.
And do you like the plus 2k skill? Let us know in the comment section below. Next episode, we'll be going back to more traditional routes of destruction with the ancient dragons, and I'm looking forward to covering this one. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.